The Devourer homeworld was not a planet. It was a massive sphere of metal and machinery built around an artificial black hole, powered by the consumed matter of 1,000 destroyed civilizations. The structure was larger than Earth's moon and covered in weapons that could obliterate entire fleets. Admiral Susan White stood on the bridge of the USS Thunder, leading a fleet of 2,000 human ships toward humanity's final confrontation with an enemy that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia. Every ship carried the most destructive weapons humanity had ever created. "Admiral," reported Captain Dan Price from his sensor station, "we're detecting massive energy signatures from the homeworld. They know we're coming." White studied the tactical display. The artificial world was surrounded by defensive installations that stretched for millions of kilometers in every direction. Getting close enough to deploy Dr. Burke's gravity bombs would require running a gauntlet that would destroy most of her fleet. "Ma'am," called Communications Officer Janet Mills, "we're receiving a transmission from the Devourer homeworld." The voice that came through the speakers was mechanical, but somehow filled with ancient intelligence. "Human creatures, you have, interfered with our harvest for the last time. Your species will be consumed completely for your defiance." White picked up the microphone. "This is Admiral White of the Earth Defense Force. Your reign of terror ends today." "You understand nothing," the Devourer voice replied. "We are not conquerors. We are refugees. The final dark has already consumed our original galaxy. We came here seeking resources to escape further. Your interference has doomed us all." The transmission cut off, leaving White's command staff in stunned silence. The enemy they had been fighting was running from something even worse. "Admiral," Dr. Helen Burke called from her laboratory ship, "long-range sensors are confirming what they said. Something massive is approaching from intergalactic space. The energy readings are off the charts." White made the hardest decision of her military career. "All ships, prepare for immediate assault on the homeworld. We don't have time to debate the morality of this. If we don't stop the Devourers now, the final dark will have their resources and technology when it arrives." Captain Tony Garcia, who had survived the destruction of 3 different ships during the war, led the first assault wave from his newest command, the USS Vengeance II. His job was to punch a hole through the outer defenses for the main fleet to follow. "Remember, people," Tony transmitted to his squadron, "we're not trying to win a fair fight. We're trying to end a war. Hit everything that moves and keep moving toward the target." The human assault began with a coordinated nuclear bombardment. That lit up space like a small sun. Hundreds of fusion warheads detonated against Devourer defensive platforms, clearing a path through the outer perimeter. But the homeworld's defenses were unlike anything humanity had faced. Energy weapons that could track and destroy incoming missiles, gravity manipulators that crushed human ships into metal balls, swarms of defensive drones that operated like a living cloud of death. "We're losing too many ships," reported Captain Alex Cooper from the USS Hammer. "At this rate, we won't have enough left to deliver the gravity bombs." Admiral White watched her fleet dying on the tactical display. Every minute of delay cost hundreds of human lives. But retreat was not an option. The final dark was coming, and this was humanity's only chance to prevent galactic extinction. "All ships, execute Operation Prometheus," White ordered. "Final assault, maximum firepower." Captain Kelly Shaw led her squadron directly into the heaviest defensive fire. Her mission was to create enough chaos for Dr. Burke's delivery team to reach the homeworld's core. "This is Shaw to all ships," Kelly transmitted as enemy fire tore through her formation. "They want to stop us from reaching their home. Let's disappoint them." The USS Vigilance, Kelly's flagship, took direct hits from 3 different weapon platforms, but kept flying. Her crew worked with desperate efficiency to keep the ship operational while she carved a path through the Devourer defenses. "Hull integrity down to 15%, reported her engineer. "We're running on emergency power only." Then we better make this count, Kelly replied. She spotted a gap in the defensive grid and accelerated directly toward it. Dr. Burke, you have your opening. Make it count. Dr. Burke's specially modified ship, the USS Prometheus, carried humanity's ultimate weapon, 12 gravity bombs, each capable of destabilizing a star, aimed at the artificial black hole that powered the Devourer homeworld. Beginning attack run, Burke reported as her ship dove toward the massive metal sphere. Around her, human fighters provided cover against swarms of defensive drones. Colonel Amy Johnson led the fighter escort, her squadron of veteran pilots clearing the way for Burke's approach. Stay tight, people. The doc needs 30 seconds to deploy her package. Amy's fighters danced through defensive fire with skill born from a year of constant combat. Every pilot knew this was humanity's last chance. If they failed here, the final. Dark would inherit everything the Devourers had built. 15 seconds to deployment, Burke announced. Her ship shuddered as enemy weapons found their mark, but she held course toward the homeworld's core. At that moment, space around the battle erupted with new contacts. The final dark had arrived. Sweet Jesus, whispered Captain Dan Price from his sensor station. Admiral, you need to see this. On the main screen, something emerged from the void between galaxies that defied human understanding. It wasn't a ship or a fleet. It was a living darkness that consumed light itself, stretching across space like a cancer made of pure entropy. How big is that thing? White asked. Ma'am, it's roughly the size of our solar system, and it's heading directly for us. The Devourers, faced with the arrival of their ancient enemy, made a desperate choice. Instead of fighting the humans, they began evacuating their homeworld. Admiral, Burke called out, the Devourers are abandoning their defenses. I have a clear shot at the black hole. White realized that destroying the Devourer homeworld would eliminate their technology and resources, preventing the final dark from using them. But it would also destroy the only force that had any experience fighting this cosmic horror. Dr. Burke, deploy all gravity bombs. Destroy everything. Burke's ship released its cargo into the artificial black hole that powered the Devourer homeworld. The gravity bombs, designed to destabilize stellar fusion, had an unexpected effect on the artificial singularity. Instead of simply destroying the homeworld, the bombs caused the black hole to collapse into itself and then explode outward in a cascade of exotic energy that tore holes in space-time itself. The explosion consumed the entire Devourer civilization in seconds. Their homeworld, their fleets, and billions of years of accumulated knowledge vanished in a burst of light that could be seen across the galaxy. But the explosion also created something else. The cascade of exotic energy formed barriers in space-time that the final dark could not cross. The cosmic horror, which had consumed entire galaxies, found itself trapped outside this region of space. My God, whispered Dr. Burke as she watched the readings. We didn't just destroy their homeworld. We created a dimensional barrier. The final dark can't get through. The battle was over, but the cost had been devastating. Of the 2,000 ships that began the assault, fewer than 600 remained. Over 100,000 human military personnel had died in the final battle. Admiral White stood in the wreckage of her command bridge, looking at the space where an entire civilization had existed moments before. Signal all ships. Mission accomplished. We're going home. But the journey back to human space would be different. The galaxy they had saved now looked at humanity with a mixture of gratitude and terror. Ambassador Zethra met with White aboard the damaged USS Thunder as the human fleet regrouped. The alien leader looked older and more tired than when the war began. Admiral, Zethra said, the Galactic Council wants to thank humanity for saving us all. We also want to offer you full membership and leadership positions in our government. That's generous, White replied. What's the catch? The Council also wants to implement monitoring of human military development. Your species has demonstrated the ability to destroy civilizations and alter space-time itself. Some members are concerned about what you might do in peacetime." White felt anger rise in her chest. "Ambassador, my people just sacrificed over 100,000 lives to save your galaxy. Now you want to treat us like criminals?" "Not criminals," Zethra said carefully. "But perhaps the cure was as frightening as the disease. Your species approached this war with an enthusiasm that disturbed many observers." "We approached it with determination," White corrected. "The difference is that we were willing to do whatever it took to win." President Lisa Carter's response to the Council's offer came through official diplomatic channels. "The United States of Earth accepts full membership in the Galactic Council. We also accept that our military capabilities make other species nervous. But understand this: humanity will defend itself and its allies with every weapon at our disposal. The alternative is extinction, and we find that unacceptable." The years that followed became known as the Long Peace. Humanity took its place among the galactic civilizations, contributing technology and military expertise to the common defense. But they also maintained the largest and most advanced military force. Captain Jake Morrison stood at the large window of the colony control tower. He watched the orange sun set behind the purple mountains of Kepler 442b. The alien world had been his home for 7 long years. 7 years since the last Earth ship had left them behind. The mining colony of New Haven stretched out below him. 12,000 people lived and worked in the metal buildings that dotted the rocky landscape. They had come here to dig rare metals from the ground. The Galactic Alliance had promised them supplies, protection, and regular contact with Earth. Those promises now felt like lies. Jake remembered the day the last supply ship departed. Captain Rodriguez had shaken his hand and said they would be back in 6 months with new equipment and fresh faces from Earth. That was in 2387. Now it was 2394, and no ship had come. Dr. Lisa Carter walked up behind him. She was the colony's head doctor. Her blonde hair was longer now, and worry lines showed around her green eyes. At 35, she looked older than when they first arrived. Everyone did. "The kids are asking about Earth again," Lisa said. She stood next to Jake at the window. "Some of the teenagers were born here. They have never seen blue skies or real trees." Jake nodded but did not speak. Below them, people walked between the buildings. They were heading home after another day, in the mines. The colony had learned to take care of itself. They grew food in underground farms. They built new machines from spare parts. They even had their own government now. But Jake knew they could not last forever. Their equipment was old and breaking down. The fusion reactor that powered the colony needed parts they could not make. The medical supplies were running low. The communication array that sent messages to Earth had been silent for 3 years. "Sir, we have something on the sensors," called tech specialist Ryan Brooks from his station. The young man had been just 18 when they arrived. Now he was 25, and the colony's best computer expert. "Ships are coming in from hyperspace." Jake felt his heart beat faster. After 7 years of nothing, something was finally approaching their world. He moved quickly to the sensor station. Lisa followed close behind. On the screen, Ryan showed them the readings. 3 large shapes were moving toward their planet. They were still too far away to see clearly, but they were definitely ships. Big ones. "Are they human ships?" Jake asked. Ryan worked at his controls. His face was tense with concentration. "I cannot tell yet, sir. The design does not match anything in our database, but our records are 7 years old." Jake felt hope and fear fighting in his chest. These could be rescue ships from Earth, or they could be something much worse. The galaxy was not a safe place for humans anymore. The Galactic Alliance had been humanity's ticket to the stars. Earth had joined the alliance of alien races in 2301. For 80 years, humans had built colonies on distant worlds under the protection of alien fleets. But that protection had a price. When the Vorthon Empire started expanding into human space, The Alliance had made a choice. They gave up several human colonies to avoid a war. New Haven was one of them. The politicians on Earth had called it a temporary strategic withdrawal. The people left behind called it abandonment. Jake had been a captain in the Earth Defense Force before taking this job. He knew how politics worked. The Alliance cared more about peace than about human lives. They would sacrifice a few thousand colonists to keep the bigger alien powers happy. "Contact the other department heads," Jake told Ryan. "Tell them to meet in the main conference room in 30 minutes. As Ryan sent the messages, Jake looked out the window again. The colony had survived because of good people who refused to give up. Mayor Helen Price had organized a new government when Earth stopped, responding to their messages. Security Chief Danny Walsh had turned miners into soldiers when alien pirates tried to raid their supplies. Dr. Carter had kept everyone healthy with limited medicine and equipment. They had done the impossible. 12,000 people had built a new life on an alien world with no help from home. They had learned to fix everything themselves. They had found new ways to extract metals from the ground. They had even discovered edible plants growing in the valleys. But Jake knew their luck could not last forever. The mining equipment was breaking down faster than they could repair it. The hydroponics farms needed new seeds and nutrients. The fusion reactor was showing stress fractures that could lead to a complete failure. Worse, they had detected signs of alien activity in nearby star systems. The Vorthan Empire was expanding again. Sooner or later, they would notice the mining operation on Kepler 442b. When that happened, 12,000 humans would face the choice between slavery and death. The conference room filled with worried faces. Mayor Price was a short woman with gray hair who had run 3 re-election campaigns with the promise of keeping everyone alive. Security Chief Walsh was a big man with scars on his hands from working in the mines. Dr. Carter sat next, to Chief Engineer Bobby Martinez, who kept all their machines running. "The ships will reach orbit in about 6 hours, Ryan reported. "I am still trying to identify them, but their technology is more advanced than ours." "Could they be from Earth?" Mayor Price asked. Jake shook his head. "Earth Defense Force ships have been the same design for 20 years. These are something new. Or something alien," Danny Walsh added. The security chief had fought pirates and claim jumpers. He knew how dangerous the galaxy could be. Dr. Carter pulled up medical records on her tablet. "We have about 400 people in the hospital right now. Most are just routine checkups, but we have some serious cases. If we need to evacuate, I need time to prepare the critical patients." "Where would we evacuate to?" Bobby Martinez asked. "Our transport ships can maybe carry 2,000 people. We would have to leave 10,000 behind." The room fell silent. Everyone knew the truth. They had nowhere to run and no way to fight advanced alien warships. If these visitors came in peace, they might survive. If not, 7 years of struggle would end in flames. Jake made his decision. "We prepare for the worst and hope for the best. Danny, get your security teams ready. Bobby, start emergency procedures on all critical systems. Lisa, prepare the hospital for possible casualties. Helen, draft evacuation orders but do not send them yet." As the department heads left to prepare their people, Jake remained in the conference room with Ryan. On the big screen, the 3 ships grew larger as they approached. Their design was angular and aggressive. These were warships, not rescue vessels. "Ryan, send a message on all frequencies," Jake said. "Tell them we are a peaceful mining colony under Earth protection. Ask them to identify themselves." Ryan typed the message and sent it into space. They waited for a response that might determine whether New Haven Colony would see another sunrise. Outside the conference room windows, the people of New Haven went about their evening routines. Parents cooked dinner for children who had never seen Earth. Workers cleaned mining equipment for another day in the tunnels. Teachers prepared lessons about a home world most of their students would never visit. None of them knew that 3 alien warships were about to change their lives forever. The three ships that came out of hyperspace were not the rescue vessels Jake Morrison had hoped to see. They were Vorthan destroyers, each one twice the size of anything the colony had ever built. Their dark metal hulls gleamed with purple energy, lines that marked advanced weapon systems. Jake stood in the colony communication center with his department heads around him. The main screen showed the alien ships hanging in orbit above their world like metal vultures. Each destroyer carried enough firepower to turn New Haven into a crater. The communication system came alive with an incoming transmission, the hologram, that appeared in the center of the room made everyone step back. It was a Vorthan commander, 7 feet tall with gray-green skin covered in ritual scars. His yellow eyes were cold and cruel. A translator device around his neck turned his hissing words into English. "Human settlement," the alien commander said. "You are trespassing in Vorthan territory. You have 1 planetary rotation to evacuate this world, or you will be eliminated." Jake forced himself to step forward. His legs felt weak, but he could not show fear in front of his people. "I am Captain Jake Morrison, leader of New Haven Colony. This world was settled under Galactic Alliance treaties. We have legal claim to be here." The Vorthan commander showed his teeth in what might have been a smile. "Your alliance abandoned you 7 years ago, human. Their treaties mean nothing now. The Vorthan Empire has claimed this system and 17 others. You will leave, or you will die." "We are peaceful miners," Dr. Carter said, stepping up beside Jake. "We pose no threat to your empire. Surely we can reach some agreement." The alien's laugh was a harsh sound that made everyone in the room shiver. "Humans are useful as slaves in our mining operations. Those who submit will be relocated to work camps. Those who resist will be executed. You have 24 hours to decide." The hologram flickered and disappeared, leaving the humans in shocked silence. Through the windows, they could see the Vorthan ships deploying smaller vessels. Orbital platforms began taking positions around the planet. They were setting up a blockade that would prevent any escape. Mayor Helen Price was the first to speak. "How many people can our transport ships carry?" "Maybe 2,000 in an emergency," Chief Engineer Bobby Martinez answered. "But that means leaving 10,000 people behind." "We are not leaving anyone," Jake said firmly. His voice carried the authority of a man who had led these people through 7 years of abandonment. "Ryan, what defensive capabilities do we have?" Tech specialist Ryan Brooks called up tactical displays on his computer. "We have mining lasers that could be converted to weapons, but they are no match for military destroyers. Some of our construction mechs could work as ground units, but Jake, we are talking about 12,000 civilians against a Vorthan battle group." Security Chief Danny Walsh was already making plans. "I can arm about 500 people with mining tools and construction equipment. We have some explosives for clearing rock. But against trained alien soldiers with advanced weapons, we would not last an hour." The reality of their situation settled over the room like a heavy weight. The Vorthans were one of the most aggressive species in the galaxy. They had conquered dozens of worlds and enslaved entire populations. Stories of their cruelty were told in whispers across human space. "What about calling for help?" Dr. Carter asked. "Do we have any way to contact Earth or the Alliance?" Ryan shook his head. "Our long-range communication array has been down for 3 years. We do not have the parts to fix it. And even if we could send a message, who would come? The Alliance already wrote us off." Jake walked to the window and looked out at the colony. People were going about their normal activities, but word was spreading fast. Parents were gathering their children. Workers were stopping their jobs to stare up at the alien ships in the sky. Fear was beginning to replace the normal bustle of colony life. "We need to tell everyone the truth," Mayor Price said. "They have a right to know what we are facing." Within an hour, the entire colony had gathered in the main plaza. 12,000 people crowded together under the alien sky. Jake stood on a platform where he could see every face. These were his people, Miners and doctors, teachers and engineers, children who had been born on this world, and grandparents who remembered Earth. 7 years ago, we were abandoned, Jake began. Earth and the Alliance left us here to fend for ourselves. We survived because we refused to give up. We built a new life on this world through hard work and determination. He pointed up at the Vorthon ships visible in the sky. Now we face a new challenge. These aliens want our world and our freedom. They have given us one day to surrender or be destroyed. A murmur of fear and anger ran through the crowd. Parents held their children closer. Miners clenched their fists around tools that would be useless against alien weapons. I will not lie to you, Jake continued. We do not have the weapons to fight them. We do not have ships to evacuate everyone, but we have something they do not expect. We have the courage of people who have already lost everything once and rebuilt from nothing. Dr. Carter stepped up beside him. The medical center is preparing for casualties. We will do everything we can to keep our people safe. Security Chief Walsh addressed the crowd next. Anyone who wants to fight can report to the security office. We are organizing defensive positions around the colony. We may not have military weapons, but we know this land better than they do. As the crowd dispersed, families began making difficult decisions. Some parents sent their children to the transport ships, hoping a few might escape. Others decided to stay together no matter what happened. The colony's teachers organized the younger children into groups, trying to keep them calm while adults prepared for war. In the mining tunnels beneath the colony, workers began converting equipment into weapons. Mining lasers were removed from their supports and fitted with portable power sources. Construction mechs were armed with cutting tools and explosives. It was not much, but it was all they had. Dr. Carter worked through the night setting up emergency medical stations. She knew the colony's small hospital could not handle the casualties they might face. Volunteers helped her move supplies to underground shelters that might survive orbital bombardment. Bobby Martinez and his engineering team worked to strengthen the colony's defenses. They installed blast doors on critical buildings and rerouted power systems to underground bunkers. The fusion reactor was surrounded with additional shielding to prevent a catastrophic explosion. As dawn broke over New Haven, the Vorthan ships moved into attack positions. Their weapons began charging with an ominous purple glow that could be seen from the ground. Smaller assault ships launched from the destroyers and began descending through the atmosphere. Jake stood in the communication center, watching the tactical display as enemy forces prepared to land. Around him, his department heads made final preparations. They had done everything possible with the time and resources they had. Incoming transmission from the Vorthan commander, Ryan announced. The alien appeared again as a hologram, his scarred face showing satisfaction. Your time is up, humans. Surrender now, and some of you may live as slaves. Resist, and you will all die. Jake looked around at his people. Lisa Carter stood ready to save lives. Danny Walsh prepared to defend the innocent. Bobby Martinez worked to keep their machines running. Mayor Price represented the will of 12,000 colonists who had chosen freedom over slavery. This is our answer, Jake said to the alien commander. He reached over and cut the transmission. On the tactical display, the first Vorthan assault, ships touched down on the outskirts of the colony. Alien soldiers began deploying with weapons that could cut through steel. The final battle for New Haven was about to begin. But as Jake watched the enemy advance, he felt no despair. These people had survived 7 years of abandonment. They had built a home from nothing on an alien world. They had faced every challenge with courage and determination. The Vorthans expected easy conquest over helpless humans. They were about to learn that some people would rather die free than live as slaves. And sometimes the galaxy had a way of rewarding such courage in the most unexpected ways. Ryan Brooks was staring at his sensor readings when something impossible appeared on his screen. The young tech specialist rubbed his eyes and looked again, but the display did not change. Massive energy signatures were building at the edge of The star system, bigger than anything he had ever seen. "Jake, you need to see this right now," Ryan called out, his voice shaking with excitement and disbelief. Captain Jake Morrison rushed to the sensor station. On the main screen, space itself seemed to be tearing open as ships began emerging from hyperspace. But these were not just any ships. This was a fleet so enormous that it blocked out entire sections of stars. At the front of the formation flew a massive warship that dwarfed the Vorthon destroyers. The USS Retribution stretched over a kilometer in length, its hull bristling with weapon systems that gleamed like silver death in the starlight. Flanking it were dozens of heavy cruisers, bearing names that spoke of human determination: Liberty, Defiance, Unbreakable, Guardian. Behind the cruisers came hundreds of smaller ships. Destroyers, frigates, and support vessels moved in perfect formation like a school of metal fish. But it was the ship at the heart of the fleet that made Jake's breath catch in his throat. The USS Sovereign was a legend. The first super dreadnought humanity had ever built. It was thought lost during the war against the hegemony 20 years ago. Its dark hull was scarred from countless battles, and energy cascaded along its weapon systems like controlled lightning. The ship was over 2 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to level entire cities. "How many ships are there?" Dr. Lisa Carter asked, moving up beside Jake to stare at the display. Ryan worked frantically at his controls. "I count over 300 vessels, with more still coming through hyperspace. This is the largest human fleet ever assembled." On the tactical display, the Vorthon ships suddenly looked very small. The 3 destroyers that had seemed so threatening were tiny compared to the human dreadnoughts now filling local space. The alien commanders were probably having the same realization. The colony communication system activated with an incoming transmission. Instead of the Vorthan commander, a human face appeared on the screen. Admiral Ben Tucker was a man in his 60s with gray hair and sharp blue eyes. His uniform bore decorations from conflicts spanning 3 decades of human expansion. "New Haven Colony. This is Admiral Tucker of the Terran Defense Force Deep Strike Fleet. We received your emergency beacon 7 years ago. Sorry we are late. We were a bit busy liberating the Centauri system from some uninvited guests." Jake could barely speak. His voice cracked with emotion when he finally found words. "Admiral, we thought Earth had forgotten us. The Alliance said we were written off as a total loss." Admiral Tucker's expression hardened, and his eyes showed the cold anger of a man who had seen too much betrayal. "The Alliance might write off good people, Captain Morrison, but the Terran Defense Force does not abandon its own. We have been fighting a shadow war for the past 10 years, taking back every system the politicians gave away." On the main display, the human fleet was already moving into attack formation. Ships that had been traveling together for years moved with practiced precision. The Vorthan vessels, suddenly faced with overwhelming force, began broadcasting retreat signals in their own language. "Now I understand you folks have some unwelcome visitors," Admiral Tucker continued. "Would you like us to handle that problem for you?" Before Jake could answer, another voice cut into the communication. Captain Kevin Hayes of the USS Retribution appeared in a smaller window on the screen. "Admiral, the Vorthon commander is requesting terms for withdrawal. He claims diplomatic immunity under Galactic Alliance protocols." Admiral Tucker's smile was sharp as a knife blade. "Negative, Captain Hayes. They threaten civilians under our protection. Show them why humanity does not forgive that kind of mistake." On the surface of New Haven, the Vorthan assault troops that had been advancing on the colony suddenly stopped. Their commanders were receiving urgent orders from the ships in orbit. Through his binoculars, Security Chief Danny Walsh watched. Alien soldiers looking up at the sky where human warships now dominated space. "The Vorthans are retreating to their landing craft," Danny reported over the radio. "It looks like they are trying to get back to their ships, but the human fleet was not going to let them escape." Squadrons of fighters launched from the larger ships, sleek vessels that moved like hawks diving on prey. The fighters reached the Vorthan assault craft before they could reach orbit, turning the alien landing ships into balls of fire that lit up the sky. Dr. Carter watched from the medical center as the tide of battle turned completely. How is this possible? Where did all these ships come from? Admiral Tucker answered her question as if he had heard it. For 10 years, the Terran Defense Force has been building ships and training crews in secret. Every time the Alliance gave away a human colony, more people joined our cause. Every time alien empires threatened our people, more resources flowed our way. The Admiral's image was replaced by tactical displays showing the human fleet's positions. We have been fighting a quiet war across the frontier, liberating colonies the politicians abandoned. New Haven is the 87th world we have freed from alien occupation or threat. On the sensor screens, Ryan watched as human ships surrounded the Vorthan destroyers. The alien vessels were powerful, but they were outnumbered 50-1. Their advanced weapons were useless against the coordinated firepower of an entire fleet. "This is Commodore Sarah Williams aboard the USS Thunderbolt." Another voice joined the communication. "Admiral, we have the Vorthan ship surrounded. What are your orders?" Admiral Tucker's voice carried the weight of years of anger and determination. The Vorthan Empire has murdered thousands of human civilians across the frontier. They enslave populations and destroy entire civilizations. Today, they learn that such actions have consequences. The USS Sovereign moved into firing position, its massive weapon systems targeting the lead Vorthan destroyer, energy built along the super dreadnought's hull like a gathering storm. Other human ships did the same, creating a display of power that could be seen from the planet's surface. Mayor Helen Price had gathered with other colony leaders in the communications center. "Admiral Tucker, on behalf of New Haven Colony, I want to thank you for coming to our rescue. We had given up hope that anyone from Earth still remembered us. Mayor Price, you and your people have survived 7 years on your own in one of the most hostile regions of space," the Admiral replied. "You built a thriving colony from nothing and stood ready to fight impossible odds to protect your families. We should be thanking you." As the human fleet prepared to engage the Vorthan ships, more vessels continued arriving through hyperspace. Medical ships came to treat any wounded colonists. Transport vessels carried supplies that New Haven had needed for years. Engineering. Ships brought equipment to repair and upgrade the colony's infrastructure. "Ryan, are you getting readings on all these ships?" Jake asked. The tech specialist was working at multiple screens, trying to catalog the arriving fleet. "Sir, I count 12 dreadnoughts, 47 heavy cruisers, over 200 destroyers and frigates, plus about 100 support vessels. This fleet could take on the entire Vorthan Navy." Dr. Carter was reading medical reports coming from the fleet. "Jake, they have hospital ships with medical equipment I have only dreamed about. Advanced surgical systems, genetic therapy machines, life support technology that could save people we cannot help here." But it was Chief Engineer Bobby Martinez who noticed something else about the fleet. "Look at the ship designs. These are not standard Earth Defense Force vessels. Someone has been developing new technology for years. These ships are more advanced than anything the Alliance has." Admiral Tucker's voice came through the speakers again. "Captain Morrison, we are about to engage the enemy. You might want to move your people away from windows and into sheltered areas. This could get bright." Across New Haven Colony, 12,000 people moved into underground shelters and reinforced buildings. But many found ways to watch as the most powerful human fleet ever assembled prepared to defend their world. The battle that followed would be remembered across the galaxy as the day humanity announced its return to galactic politics. But for the people of New Haven, it was simply the moment when someone finally came to bring them home.